surprise, here we are for the second chance qualifier. That's right, second chance. More players are going to be able to make their way to the summit in Dusseldorf just a month away. It's crazy to think about. And here we are. If you don't believe in second chances, maybe you should. Why don't we get your analyst in here? It's Kelly Link. It's Vivid. Guys, here we are for the second chance. For players that thought it was over, what's up? They've been given a second chance to fight for a spot at the summit. What a time to be alive.
You know, Zeke, I've always believed in second chances, but do I believe in second chances? Well, Epic is going to be figuring that out today. Which 7 teams are going to be joining the 50 that have already gone on to Dusseldorf, plus the few that have gone on through today? Vivid, there's so many questions that are going to be answered. I am excited to figure those out.
Yeah, guys, I'll be honest. Listen, you know, over the course of watching the Heats, watching Grand Finals, I just didn't get enough Zeke free. So I made a balls call, made sure we kind of go ahead and get this broadcast going today. And I'm excited to see 7 teams on the region kind of clutch up and make it to land.
That's right, man. In case, Fortnite fam, you haven't seen the news, we've made some updates to the summit. So let's take a look. We've got a little graphic lined up for you. So first, we've made it a 3-day event. So now we will also have a Friday. Guys, there's going to be an upper bracket. There's going to be a lower bracket. If you're someone who already bought a 2-day ticket, don't even worry about it. Top left up there, it'll be converted to a 3-day ticket free of charge. I mean, Kelly Link, there's also $300,000 added to the original prize pool.
Oh my gosh. Also, to see that grand finals have been changed from 6 games to 8 games, and we're going to get even more explosive finals action on Sunday. See, I can't wait. I'm so excited to watch it all.
Super excited, cannot wait for the summit. Big changes kind of coming. Of course, you know, Zeke, we have this little interesting opportunity here today, the second chance qualifier. We of course did just watch those grand finals over the course of the weekend, but we already have 100 players that are qualified to the summit, and here are going to be all of those teams for anybody who needs a little bit of a reminder. Crazy stuff over on NA Central. We know, of course, Curve and Veno, incredible performance there. We had some more qualifiers, Peter Bot and Folio, Visual Praise, all names that we are very familiar with. Now, of course, you know, these guys are like some of the best teams on NA Central region, which leaves us with the fact that they are already qualified for the summit, which means that they do not need to play today. So it kind of creates this interesting dynamic where 13 of the best teams on the region are already qualified and they're not going to be playing today. So the players that are going to be playing today have this interesting little opportunity to go ahead and clutch up while kind of not facing some of those top teams.
But let's talk about that. Let's maybe break that down a little bit more, Viv. You've got some stats for us lined up. So if we had to kind of talk about some of the stats for today, what are some of the things you're excited about seeing as we bring some of these up? Because, man, you know, Kelly, Viv, there's some cool stats here for sure.
Ooh, of course, looking at the FNCS Finals appearances, having 320 under the 100 players that we already have. But I'm actually going to take a quick look at the bottom of this list right here, because players with 0 FNCS Finals, 31. But players with 0 Clan Finals is 93. So the consideration that we might have a player or a team that has not even been in an FNCS Grand Finals go to a LAN is pretty cool.
Those finals appearances actually kind of match up with the numbers that we were seeing in. So the competition for this second chance qualifier is still going to be pretty fierce. Not to mention there's 38 Major 1 grand finalists here. Teams or players that kind of already had an opportunity to qualify to the summit. And we know over the course of the weekend, you needed to get top 13 to qualify to the LAN. But today it's going to be a little bit harder because you're going to have to get top 7. So are those returning players, are they going to be able to clutch up today? It'll be interesting to see.
But Viv, how many points would you imagine we would need to clutch up to be in that top 7? Break it down with more stats.
The numbers, man, there's so many numbers. Yeah, I kind of wanted to get a little bit of a reference point to see what we can kind of expect. So I went ahead, I took a look at grand finals that just happened this weekend, which had the exact same format with the placement and the eliminations. If you take a look at it, the first row there will be NAC top 7 from just day 1 points. So that was going to be 262. If you go down a couple of lines, it'll be NAC top 7 from just the points that teams were able to secure on day number 2, right? That was going to be the top 7 threshold. So as you can see, 262 to 294. Maybe we can kind of guess that it's going to be around like 280. And we were kind of seeing a similar thing over on EU when we took a look at the grand finals points over there as well. And then I also wanted to take a look at, Kelly, the biggest game that we kind of saw over the course of the weekend, which was 105 points. Just to kind of give us a little bit of a reference point to what we can maybe expect. Maybe teams are able to accomplish in like a last game needed scenario.
You know, if we're talking about expectations and using EU as a reflection, I would love to see a team win 3 victory royales in this game or in this lobby, because Akira and Kurama were able to do that. So one team's got to be able to do that for North America Central, right, Steve?
Gotta make it like 4, right, Kelly? It's the only way that we could do that. Well, you know what, guys? As we prepare ourselves, why don't we go meet up with MDF and Jacob PR, your casters for today.
Thank you so much, Zeke. And one thing I know for sure, Monster, is today is going to be full of chaos, just because those 13 teams that already qualified to the Summit land are no longer in this lobby does not mean it's going to be a cakewalk at all.
No, definitely. I mean, we have teams that we're definitely going to be keeping an eye on, one of which might just be fully contested. We have Bucky and Zen, right, Jacob? This is, of course, one of the many popular teams showing up this weekend. One of the more exciting ones you want to talk about.
Yeah, this is the team. We saw them in Heats. They did get a victory royale to qualify to the FNCS Grand Finals. Unfortunately, they fell a little short. Contested drops. That's what's going to do it to you today. They landing at Sandy Strip. So although they are going to be contested, Monster, it's a much better drop spot. And that kind of leads to the next storyline. If we know what Bucky can do in big moments, this is Zen's chance to shine. We all know him as the guy you want on your team in Zone Wars, but this is a moment to be the Zone Wars guy and move into an FNCS superstar. We got some highlights here. He clutched up a big solo win just to get to this lobby.
Yeah, and there's been a lot of hype around Zen. He's definitely been having his moments. Performing just yesterday to bring him to this, portion of the stage here is definitely impressive, Jacob. And that's really why we're giving him the little extra spotlight, the nod that we've been watching what's been going down out there. And for him in particular, he's got a lot of pressure on his shoulders now, because can he basically make a jump to his first land? It's the real question here, Jacob.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of questions as the day goes on. A lot of them will be answered quickly. A lot of them will take the full 6 games. We'll catch up with you guys later. Back to Zeke, Kelly, and Vivid to break down the rest of the teams.
Thank you, guys. I think if we took all of the things that they just said and we kind of summarized to like a one-liner, it would be Zen is him. Okay, let's take a look at the lobby list. Who will we be seeing compete here in the second chance qualifier? Here's a look at the first 25 names. Let's go ahead and start with Iamso and Josh. So here we are in the second chance qualifier. This is a high profile duo, right? I mean, like, there's just no way these guys don't end in that top 7.
Oh, well, I mean, don't jinx them, Zeke, my goodness. But yes, Josh and Iamso, as far as it goes for accolades and everything, they're probably the most notable team that we have in the competition right now. Landing over in Storm Station, which is where we saw Acorn and Bolts land over there. Obviously, they have tons of real estate. They have a lot of opportunities for rotations with the static launch pads. And as far as endgame goes, we know these guys to be low ground, the front of low ground warriors going for those eliminations. And I think that's something that we can probably expect to see them as well today.
Yeah, would love to kind of see them control the low ground. I think we saw a lot of teams kind of find that position to be successful over the course of the weekend. And if we take a look at who actually won grand finals, Curve and Venno, this new formation of teams that's kind of hit the spotlight when it comes to Fortnite competitive, where you take a vetted player and pair him up with like this young gun who can really find you all of those eliminations. This is kind of like a similar team, right? Yamzo, that vetted experienced player, and then you have Josh, who's kind of expected to be the mechanical player, the young player who can kind of find this elimination. So as in terms of forming of this team, they've got the right building blocks here to be exciting to see if they can clutch up and get top 7, but they are looking like favorites.
Oh, love to see that. Why don't we talk about the next duo as we bring that lobby list back up? So this duo actually newly formed for the second chance, right? It's actually Kingling and Craze. So coming into this stage of the competition, making it here now with the second chance on the line. Being newly formed, Kelly, do we think this duo can take it all the way? Can they end in that top 7?
Well, when you say newly formed, we have to add the asterisk to it because they've actually played together going all the way back to the start of Chapter 7, Season 1, and they had relative success. But obviously, they broke up, and we had Kingaling go play with a Thief, where Craze ended up playing with Bugha, and they both did end up making it pretty far, but unfortunately not able to qualify themselves to Dusseldorf. But when I look at this duo right now between King and Craze, what I think of is explosiveness, Vivid. I can expect a lot of craziness from the mid-ground, and honestly, they're probably going to be going for height. Maybe sometimes they're going to be going on the low ground. Can't really predict from this duo.
Yeah, flip the script. Forget everything I just said about Yamzo and Josh and the spotlight of experienced and a young, newer player, because this team, I gotta tell you, looking at their FNCS finals appearances, they only have a combined number of 8. So both of them are gonna kind of be like new to these sort of lobbies. I will say though, you know, usually when we take a look at new players entering into the light of like a fixed lobby like this, usually the toughest thing for them is storm surge. However, taking a look at their drop spot, they are going to be uncontested with a ton of teams around them that are going to be contested. So there is actually opportunity there for them to go ahead and conquer storm surge. So yeah, I think they're actually looking good today.
You guys don't think that maybe the pressure of now the second chance lobby forming for this, right? Extra eyes even looking at from the outside looking in, going, can these guys even make that top 7? Is that going to be enough to break the duo? Do you think they're not even thinking about it, right? They can't let these thoughts enter because they have a job to do today.
I do wonder what the mental state is for a lot of our teams going into this, because we know that there are so many differences when we see the last chance qualifier and then when we see a grand final lobby, even when we see in the heats. There's a much different meta. And so I'm wondering, going into this, have they already experienced, you know, success and then failure and then like, oh, they've already given up? Or is this going to drive them more? Are they going to try weirder things now because this is like a second chance? I don't know, Vivid.
No, I think they're going to be fine, right? You kind of mentioned it. Both of these players got to, you know, dip their toes in the water over the course of the weekend. They experienced a grand finals. Second chance qualifier should be a little bit easier. You know, you don't have those 13 top teams over here. So no, I think they're going to do fine. I think a little bit of the pressure is actually taken off.
Okay, that's what I like to hear. That's what I like to hear. Let's bring up that lobby list one last time. This time, we will flip on over to page 2 to kind of give you a more complete picture of who all will be competing in the second chance qualifier. A final duo to talk about here, Shadow and Virgo. So we've seen these guys pop off already, right? And now we are here in the second chance. This has to bode well, right, Kelly? Like, we've seen pop off performances from them before. Placing top 10 feels pretty doable.
Oh, it feels definitely doable. I mean, you're talking about pop-off performances. If we watch the qualifiers for this second chance, Shadow and Virgo ended it off with 153 eliminations. The next the next highest was 110. So they are definitely doing well as far as eliminations go. And you know, it's Shadow and Virgo. Vivid is a big fan of them, so I'll let him take it from here.
I mean, I really am just a big fan of these guys. I swear, every single time I see Shadow in an FNCS Grand Finals lobby, because he's been consistently finding his way there, I've been like, yeah, I swear that guy has potential, man. I really want to see him pop off. And it's easy to look at this duo as being favorites when you just take a look at the play-in portion of the second chance qualifier, which happened yesterday, where, of course, they did get first place, 556 points. But even leading up at, like, grands, right, scrims, the heats, you know, play-ins prior to that, they really did look like a very good duo. And the eliminations are really what just stand out. Obviously, it stood out in the play-ins yesterday, 153, the team that got the most, but that was the trend even prior to this, the second chance qualifier. They were constantly finding wins in scrim games. They were constantly finding eliminations over there as well. So this duo is really flying under the radar right now, and I'm happy that we get a chance to see them play today.
That's right, man. Only a little bit longer before we kick off the competition. I want to get your guys' kind of thoughts. This being the second chance qualifier, we have 6 games to make something happen. We have to end top 7. Where are you guys at on your hype levels? I mean, this is, we've never done one of these before, right? So first time for everything.
Oh, I'm a little hype. I'm a little scared and nervous. I don't know. I would say, let's say a 6.
I mean, listen, I thought we were kind of done with Fortnite until we actually hit the summit, but no, we got this big surprise here. 6 games of Fortnite. NAC always delivers. I'm excited.
Fortnite fam, we hope you guys are locked in and as excited as we are. It is competition time. Remember, we're going to be saying it all games long. 6 games. You need to be top 7 in consistency to head on through to the summit. Jacob PR, MDS, take it away.
You know, Zeke, I am just as excited for today's games of action. I'm kind of sitting comfortable in my chair now, but I know I'm going to be the edge of it by the day is over. Monster, these teams that qualified today, they go to the Summit land, but they don't go to day one. They go directly into day two. So it makes me wonder, how much does that change things for them?
Yeah, it's going to be a really important kind of scenario here at play, right? You have this second chance now to try to make your way to land, a first of its kind that we've never seen. What's at stake right now? Positioning and overall consistency is just the name of the game. You know, one might argue that the win and you're in condition was a lot easier to get through. So this is going to be a pretty competitive format, Jacob, as far as getting the 7 best teams here from NA and sending them to Germany.
Yeah, and if any of the regions taught us anything, this one is literally going to go down to the 6th and final game to who makes it in. But we got the start of a journey today, so let's jump right into the battle bus and take it away.
All right, Jacob. Enough's enough. We get to jump in this battle bus one more time. Almost a surprise battle bus, if you will. Even ourselves have, you know, just found out, like, oh snap, we get a whole broadcast for this. This is exciting. So what a treat for us to get this NA competition here on hand. Kicking things off, we already see new teams as well forming together, right? You got Skittle and Cam Slam here. That to me was also a surprise coming into the qualifier yesterday to even see what teams made it to this final stage.
Yeah, and already you're seeing something that we didn't necessarily see in the finals, a contested side of the Battlewood Boulevard, the north side overall. And that's something that Vivid mentions. With 13 teams out, you've got a whole slew of spots that are opening up, teams immediately trying to take advantage. This is where Curve and Venom, or FNCS champions, actually did land, and you can kind of see why players are moving in this location. Sharkman and Yuz, they missed out on that opportunity, but this is the second chance, and sometimes that's all you need. He's going to stay alive now and try to create some distance between him and Cam and his duo on the other side, so that way he at least has an opportunity to get the reboot card and his teammate back in the game.
Both of these duos here are very much experienced players, but Yuz has got to be careful. He's moving straight towards Dragon and Creon there. Team that can obviously hold their own. All in all, though, I mean, it makes sense that teams would want to claim the Battlewood Boulevard. You know, the strategy's already been played out. The playbook, if you will, is out there. Zen and Bucky, though, the team that obviously we've been excited to watch play out here now that we're in the second chance kind of format. Obviously, they had a chance within the grand finals, you know, to try to make their stake, their claim to land. However, this is their redemption opportunity.
And I know we kind of see a lot of contested fights. Sometimes they go head-to-head just like this. Other times they try to disengage on outside strip. In theory is going to be big enough, but Bucky said it himself. We are fighting here. No matter who lands here, 2 teams, 3 teams, heck, you can send the whole lobby. They're ready to duke it out. And already you kind of see shades of that happening. Bucky trying to get a whole nother angle. This is where things might slow down just a little bit because the material count. That's a whole different level of confidence when you're able to push in, take control of the pieces, and try to go for some big shots. Bucky right now has a lot of those materials for the duo.
Yeah, also just the ammo starting to run low as well, so you can tell this is pretty dragged out, and all sides have done very little farming. Even Zen has to drop his AR here, swap into the pistol now. Meanwhile, Bobby and Kicks just playing ultimate low here, trying to buy some time, trying to maximize whatever material counts they can get. Tough spot to be in if you're Bobby and Kicks. Better spot for Bucky and Zen, who are kind of dictating the pace here.
I like this idea. They're not necessarily disengaging in terms of like leaving the actual POI altogether. They realize what's happening and how their opponents are playing that fight. You don't want to stay stagnant in this position, not being able to farm up and to loot. So Zen and Bucky, they're just going towards the outskirts of the actual POI, getting some extra loot, but you can see they keep moving in that direction, Monster. They're ready to fight it if it still comes down to it, and that opportunity opens up. As that one slows down, we go to the other side of the map where Yamzo and Josh. Yamzo for a while now, community talking to him. He's the future of Fortnite. He's that guy. And then he teams up with Josh, who honestly, him being here, you know, he got that PC from Click, so you almost got to thank him for getting this big opportunity here now playing with Yamzo. They have been lighting up the leaderboards, and honestly, I would be surprised to not see him at the Summit Land.
Yeah, and then you have the Josh Rishan signing as well, right? So a lot of good things happening for the duo, at least now. You get to see how they perform. That's, I mean, honestly, an easy shoe-in here for top 7. As is, I feel like Shadow and Virgo, right? There are definitely some teams here that are strong, very, very strong duos that we expect to do well. It is just going to come down to a matter of can they step up to the expectations the community has of them. Rising Curly on the other side, one of those teams that just came up short. What do you think about this duo here, Jacob?
I like it. For, you know, Rise, you know, we've seen him around FNCS for years. You probably longer than me. You've been a mainstay on the broadcast for quite a while. You know, just coming into this, you know, he hasn't had the best teammate options, but it almost goes to show, like, his passion. When he's passionate, when he's dedicating time in the game, he has some good duos. He has some good chances, but when he's not, that's when you see his slip up. I think this Rise is passionate. He's dedicated. He's playing with Curly. Again, we talk about the experienced players kind of playing with the new guard. That's another example here, and they're uncontested this time around, so I do have high hope for them, especially Rise being one of the better IGLs in the region overall. But you're seeing how this one's playing out. The zone is kind of pulling these teams towards the south overall, maybe the center of the map. And so for the teams that are landing on the outskirts, they're more focused on rotating in toward the zone, gaining some scraps. You see Yemeni here along with Avenger. They are missing a ton of metal, which is one of the most precious resources that we have. And this is kind of the name of the game. Stay away from those early game fights. Keep your surge intact and just trying to figure out what fills the rest of your loadout.
I am a bit concerned, though, when I see teams stay this long in the storm early on. We've seen it come back around to bite them multiple times now throughout the last couple weeks here on the main stage. I feel like it's inevitable. But for now, things are pretty chill. Chris and Drew had, I want to say, a fair amount of success in their fights, at least in the early game, right? We saw Peterbot, we saw Boya trying to push this team in. They really didn't or weren't successfully able to fully eliminate them. However, you can tell that, I mean, clearly something went wrong with their overall earning points strategy. So they're mixing things up, right? Coming up to the Frigid Fortress, we don't really see this team kind of move in this general direction, at least not from what I can remember. So I am curious to see if Chris and Drew can piece together a new strategy, a fresh strategy.
Especially being kind of a newer team. We're going to see them consistently make the finals, you know, dating back a few of those. They made 60 overall combined. They've made 3 FNCS finals appearances, 2 of those coming this past weekend as a duo. So they're still gaining their footing in the overall ecosystem of competitive Fortnite, but they've shown so many shines of brilliance here of how to really play Fortnite in general. They've seen the top of the leaderboard. They just need to be able to execute all 6 games. You want to see another one of those players, kind of like a household name, example, I believe Neko here. And they're landing on the south side of the map. I'm not a huge fan of this side of the map, or especially landing here, but if you're able to get some sort of base set up where the zone is rotating in this direction, you're going to be faring very, very well compared to most of the other teams that have to rotate in.
Yeah, for now the storm is favoring that eastern and southern area. Threats and Veer, on the other hand, completely different story. They've had moments where they were shining up at the top, and then, of course, their bad string of games that set them off the pace for qualification. Now, we're back here, second chance. Definitely will be keeping an eye on this team and see what they can do to piece together a big win, hopefully, here on the region. G-Monster, Eshu, same can be said for this team. It's very confident and comfortable when it comes to taking fights. What they have going on here, though, look at the loadout. Things seem to have been going well for them.
Yeah, it's kind of another one of those teams that you're talking about. You know, breaking up after the grand finals. They placed 35th, 20th on 2 separate rosters, and then just kind of coming together here. And there was a lot of hope for the Dolzair and Ishu duo, along with G-Money and his duo. They just weren't able to execute. This is a second chance. Sometimes you got to push that memory so far in the back of your mind, it's just no longer even there. It's not necessarily going to be a non-factor, but you see the zone forcing more and more teams into the south side of the map. You see just outside of the zone on the left side is going to be Dark Dominion. So there are a couple of mountain ranges in play here for Curly and Taki. They don't necessarily have control over them, but any teams rotating off of that mountain is definitely going to be in their line of sight.
Favorite for Shadow in Virgo. Following Shadow's competitive journey since I've met him. But at his first LAN, actually, it was a little local tournament here in Texas. He's such a sweet young boy, And now look at him, all grown up, making his way to grand finals. Just an incredible story for him. And he's only gotten better every single year. You know, Vivid kind of kept talking about, hey, we see him popping up. We keep having these high hopes, these high expectations. And year after year, he's slowly improving. Give that a second, though. Evan, Pure BX jumping into things, getting their hands dirty here, finding their first set of eliminations onto a team, taking them down. Nash Jacob, I didn't even get to look at the player count. My gosh, almost 90 players standing right now. By far the most congested we've seen. I mean, even since the Heat stages, I don't think we had any zone approaching zone 3 with that many players left.
Yeah, I'm over here just trying to think as you're talking, like, was it Heat? No. Finals? No. There was almost no stage in the tournament process where we had 89 players alive at 4th zone. Just kind of shows that the second chance might be a lot of these players' last chance here, and they're really putting it on the line. There's only 6 games instead of finals where you had 12 games. There's almost no room for mistakes. Could set you behind 10 volts. See a couple more teams trying to rotate in off that mountain that I was talking about from Dark Dominion. So you're seeing the shockwaves come play, and that's just going to leave you open. Getting tagged up from teams around the outskirts. So ready, waiting for other teams to rotate first, even though Scaring is sitting barely on that line. They have all the time in the world against their position.
Sticking together here. Definitely a team that has that rapport with one another. And Zen there, possibly falling into Storm. We'll keep tabs on that team. Jumping up to 91 players now as players get rebooted. A lot of activity in play here. Meanwhile, you have Electric that are rotating on the outskirts. Scared. Putting big pressure for on top. They also got Rowdy. One of these games, clearly they end up on the losing side of it.
Storm Surge is going to activate. We knew this was coming. 91 players still up, and there's going to be a good chunk. We saw Josh Gianzo less than 100 above the damage threshold. I think that is going to be the case for a good portion of the game and a good portion of these teams. So if you do get that max bull, you have to be quick to rotate. You have to figure out a plan before it comes into play. Some teams might not necessarily be in that same scenario, though. You see Pure, you see Evan, they have options here. It looks like they're rotating towards Scribbly Shores. There is a rift here that they can try to utilize, but depending on where the entire lobby is and pulling towards the south, they're going to have to go through a congested part of the zone if they actually want to make it there.
Have to be very careful not to cross path with a team that has a need for Storm Surge. You're one of the few that actually has some tell even from this one right here how quickly they were to be bringing shots there. They come out, of course, ahead, and that's why they're sitting comfortably on the threshold. Meanwhile, talk about teams that already have been affected by the surge. Boz and Kugo here surely have a lot to be desired here, as they're hanging at the Dark Dominion, trying to play for the Mending Machine, just buy themselves some time, but I mean, they're gonna be forced, essentially, I was gonna say, like, key a team or something. There's too many teams in a Storm that are below.
Yeah, and just because you see here Avenger, yeah, they're 16 above, right? They can rotate to zone perfectly and not take a single scratch, but they can still fall below the damage threshold because of other teams on that leaderboard being active, getting damage. Yes, they take a couple of shots there. They do fall below, and the instant they do, it's active Storm Surge. Every 7 seconds, 25 damage. If you're below that threshold, you are officially on a clock to try to get any bit of damage that you can. I think Avenger, Yemeni, they're feeling the pressure here. Trying to push up on the Jojo Fishy and a Oxy. They get the eliminations here, but they're still not above the threshold.
Yeah, that was an incredible play to land on the teammate, but now Yemeni's under pressure here. So Avenger doubles back into the Storm instead of chasing that elimination so that they can get the most out of their mist, Flowberry mist here. Now, I do respect the play, but definitely risky. Might have been better to just split up and go for the damage instead. Avenger with a desperate shockwave and spray and pray there, but it's just not going to be enough now. 99 damage below. There goes the last surge tick to finish them off. Curve and what looks to be, oh, is that King? Yeah, okay. King and Craze jump down and pick up the